And we welcome you to Dodger Poke Report, where this afternoon we have a very, very, very special guest, right-handed pitcher in the Dodgers organization. Zack Plunkett joins us. So, Zack, I want to thank you very much for coming on Dodger Poke Report.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Well, hey, man, I got to see you at TCU quite a bit. I'm a huge Oklahoma State fan. I got to see you catch. I got to see the big arms. So I have a background in seeing you play. So I was excited when the Dodgers picked you up. Let's start all the way back, though. Dallas Metroplex, the Hearst area, the Hearst, Texas area, kind of in between Arlington and Fort Worth. So take us back to your high school days. I know you played for the legendary Paul Gibson, who just recently went over 500 wins in his career. So take us back to your days at Hearst, Texas, and your high school days.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I was there for his 400th. It was something like that. So that's awesome. He's at 500 now, but man, that seems like such
3
a long
decades.
time ago. Yeah, long time. So I had a great experience there. We were pretty scrappy little team. We had a lot of success when I was there. I think my junior year we made it like 4 rounds deep. And so I mean, Texas baseball is always, so competitive. So, I mean, every Tuesday and Friday you out there and it feels like you're playing a select game just because there's so much talent on the field. And it's, rare that you didn't see a guy on the mound that wasn't committed to some sort of D1. But, I mean, I think it's playing against, pretty stout competition at a young age is the best way to get better. And so, I was fortunate enough to grow up in an area that had really good baseball pretty much year round. So.
Yeah, and being in that area, being that close to Fort Worth, did you grow up a big TCU fan? Is that how that worked?
Yeah, I did. My mom, she went and got her nursing degree there when I was in middle school or so. And so ever since that time, I got to watch them in the, I believe it was like the 2010 College World Series back at Rosenblatt. And there was a catcher there by the name of Brian Holiday, and, just absolutely idolized that guy. He was kind of my motivation. I love the way that he played. He was just really energetic behind the plate. So just kind of from that time, all of that going on, knowing that they were local, getting to go watch some games and stuff, it was definitely a dream school for me. So I was very fortunate and blessed to receive an offer from them. My senior year was a really, really late sign, just because of a couple injury things that happened my junior year or whatever. And so it was definitely my number one school, and was lucky enough to get an offer and to commit there as a senior. So
you were very fortunate in a lot of ways to get to play in 3 College World Series, 2 at TCU, 1 at Arkansas. Very, very unfortunate in the sense that you're behind maybe the 2 best catchers in all of college baseball. Talking about Evan Scalgett at TCU. You came in at the same time with him. You guys were both great players. And then you moved to Arkansas. Of course, if you play at great programs that make the World Series every year, you're going to have great players there too. Casey Opitz, who might be the best catcher that Arkansas has ever had. So you had a lot of great fortune in the sense that you had a lot of great opportunities, but then you also had great catchers at both programs, didn't you?
Yeah. Don't forget Grant Cook as well.
Yeah.
Opitz, I was behind him. So if you're counting, that's 3 Team USA catchers in 4 years of college baseball. So didn't really get lucky there. But it was both schools were great environments, super competitive. I mean, it was almost the norm to get drafted. And so I think when you're around, that high caliber kind of, player and teammate every day, it really does push you to want to be better. And so although I wasn't able to get on the field that much, it definitely affected the way I worked in the weight room and in practice and stuff like that. And, it's cool to see how it paid off in the long run, albeit in a different way than I expected.
I know you had, I think, 1 inning at TCU pitching, and in that inning you were very impressive. You were anywhere from like 93 to 95, somewhere in that range. So everybody always knew you had the big arm. I mean, I got to see you catch it. I'm a huge OSU fan, and you could tell by the way you threw from behind the plate that your arm was special. So you always knew you had the big arm. What was your background before college as far as pitching went?
I never was a pitcher.
Wow.
I know a lot of guys will grow up and they'll kind of pitch and play another position, but when you're a catcher, I was always the one catching the bullpens. I never got to throw one, and so actually, when I was a freshman or sophomore in high school, I had a really, really weak arm, and it kept me off of the varsity team as a sophomore. And I remember, frankly, I just got really pissed off, and I was like, man, I'm not going to let this stop me from, advancing in my career. And so I remember my sophomore year of high school, I pretty much went out every day and threw a baseball as far as I could during catch play. And it was one of those times where your weakness became your strength. And so Never really got into pitching in high school, which I think was kind
Wow.
of a blessing in disguise,
No
because
doubt.
I think if I would have, started pitching too early, I wouldn't have continued to develop that arm and stuff like that. And, now here I am as, I think a 23 or 24-year-old getting drafted, and I didn't have a lot of the wear and tear on my arm that a lot of guys my age did, because, I had been behind the plate for so many years. So, yeah, kind of a weird situation that I threw hard and never got on the mound, but it worked out. So,
And I've seen a lot of guys. I can remember one that I idolized at Oklahoma State. His name was Kevin Fowler, and he could throw the ball from third to first like 96. And then we got on the mound, it was like 82. So
yep,
good
yep.
for you that, you had the big arm behind the plate, and then it also translated to the mound, right?
Right. Yeah, it was lucky. And kind of the story behind that was, I'm sure but every year you meet with scouts when you're in
Sure.
college. And so, however many teams come in, they put you on their list, and if they want to meet with you, you go meet with them. And so that red shirt year that I had for academic acclimation when I transferred, because the NCAA kind of had some silly rules back then, probably met with about 12. And then the next year it kind of went down to, 8. And then my last year at college, my 5th year, it was 3 or 4 scouts, and one of them was Brian, who was the area scout for the Dodgers. I believe he still is in that area, but he was at that game at TCU that I threw, and that wasn't a planned out thing. That was just hey, we're down by 7 on a Friday night to Tech, and we need to save some innings. And so, being the backup catcher there, like, hey, let's see what happens. And so, but he kind of stuck with me for the next 3 years, and he would, kept meeting me and meeting with me and stuff. And I think at the time he was with the Marlins. But he came up to me. He's like, man, I can't draft you as a catcher. I had been drafted in 18 by the Diamondbacks to catch. And pretty much all the teams said that. They're like, you're a 5th-year senior. You had never been, the number one starting guy on the team. We like you a lot behind the plate. We know you throw hard, you block, you receive well. Really, it was the bat that was kind of keeping me from moving on at that position. And he was like, man, you got to get on the mound. Like, I gotta, I still believe you could do this. And so, I don't know if I've told you this or if you've heard this, but I texted my pitching coach that night and was like, hey, do you mind if I throw a bullpen tomorrow? And reluctantly, I think he was kind of like, yeah, I'll let you do that. So go into the our little pitcher development center, the PDC, the next day, and on like 3rd or 4th pitch, I hit 97. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah, Hobbs, baseball genius, great pitching coach, absolutely off the wall. I mean, just blown away, just kind of bewildered. Like, we've had this guy on the bench, for the last couple of years.
And I'm assuming you had the TrackMan and the Rapsodo available to you.
All of it.
All that.
Yeah, it was, I think 20 plus or something vert. I mean, really high.
So you could really dive into depth that this was something that you could do.
Yeah. And I mean, even the bullpen catcher, my buddy Sean, was, pretty excited, and, word traveled quick, and all the guys were like, dude, what the heck? Like, where did it come from? And so, kind of a funny story. I like telling this, but Hobbs was like, hey, I'm going to talk to DVH, who's the head guy over there at Arkansas. And
Dave Van Horn.
Yeah. Next couple of weeks, I keep throwing bullpens, because I was like, I can't just walk in with a fastball and expect to do well. Like, I need to start developing the slider. That's when I started working on that. And I had, not even half a season left in my last year of college. And so, at this point, I'm like, hey, my future might be in pitching, in pro ball, and I need to start working on it. And so I did. And so a couple of weeks go by, pins are going really well. I'm talking to Hobbs. I'm like, hey, get me in a game. Like, I want to get on the bump. Because in my mind, I'm like, dude, I want to try this out. This has been in my back pocket for.
Yeah, it's one thing to go to the driving range. It's another to stand on, on a hole with water in front of, and you got to trust it, right?
100%. And so the other part of me knew I was, I'm a competitive guy. And so if you put a hitter in front of me, like, who knows what's going to happen, it may be better. And so he was like, eventually a couple of weeks go by, and I'm like, what's happening? Like, I'm not getting on the mound. And so Hobbs is like, hey, you need to go talk to DVH. And so I won't ever forget it. We were at the SEC tournament, standing out front of the hotel. I texted our head coach, and I was like, hey,
this was 2019, correct?
This was the year I got drafted. And I was like, hey, I want to chat. And so we had a conversation, and I was like, hey, I've been here for 3 years. I've been working my butt off, trying to be, a good dude, a leader on the team, do things right, all that sort of stuff, a leader in the weight room. And I was like, throw me a bone. Like, let me get on the mound. Like, let me show what I can do so that I can have.
Perfect way to put it, man. Perfect way to put it.
And he was like, Zach, I really think, you could have a future as a pitcher, but he was like, this point in our season, like, you're just too valuable as our backup catcher for you to get on the mound and potentially get hurt. And at that point, man, it was like getting shot in the heart. Like
Yeah.
it was so defeating. And I walked away from that conversation and be like, man, my job as a backup catcher is going to keep me from moving on professionally. And it was really, really kind of a defeating moment, because I was like, man, there's no way I'm going to get drafted without getting a second collegiate inning. I had one inning 3 years ago, but I never heard of anybody getting drafted and, never having pitched before and stuff like that. And so, the rest of the story. I ended up getting picked up by the Dodgers in the 20th round, and things have been going good since then. So, God had his funny little way of making it work out. But it was one of those. I tell that story and everybody's like, oh man, that is amazing. Funny. And I'm just like, it was not funny, man. It was the worst.
Yeah.
So,
some of the baseball stories of, people just assume that guys like you just always were the number one guys and everything was always easy for you and all this, man. And when you hear stories like yours, it just brings it just makes it real, doesn't it? And that goes back to something that I always tell my kids, and that you always hear, and just so many times you think it's cliche, but when you tell kids, hey, even if there's nobody in the stands, you don't know who's watching you. And it only takes one person has to believe in you to make your career go. And that literally is your story, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I always prided myself on kind of my work ethic. And
yes, sir.
I think even from a catching perspective, I got drafted in 18 by the Diamondbacks to catch after getting 0 starts that year in college. And when I kind of asked that question to the guy that drafted me, and it didn't work out, there's some kind of questionable stuff that went on. And I ultimately decided to go back to school, but
tough decision, by the way.
Yeah, tough decision.
You lose all your leverage going back as a senior, man. You know that as well as anybody. So that's a tough decision.
Yeah. Well, they didn't treat me with a lot of leverage in the moment, so that's kind of what ended up making the decision.
Understood.
For me. But it is that exact thing that what got me drafted in the first place was, hey, we've seen you, the way that you work in practice. We've seen you take BP, and I was the king of BP in college. I mean,
you were the 5 o'clock hitter, huh?
Exactly. Fans got a lot of super from this stuff. So, but it was that exact thing. So I mean, it is true. It sounds cliche, but I mean, you gotta work hard even when the lights aren't on. So,
backing up just a little bit. You grew up, as we said, in the Dallas Metroplex. I've been to Hurst, Texas many different times. I was at Lupton Stadium just last year. Awesome place to play. It's very little. It's real compact. It's very intimidating as an opponent because everybody's just right on top of you. Then they put that student body right next to the dugout and by the third base dugout. And they've had a few tees, if you will, throughout the evening. So I'm sure leaving that area had to have been very difficult for you, wasn't it? Wasn't that a difficult decision?
Yeah, I loved my time at TCU. The school, student experience, it's all great. Fort Worth, just bought a house there, so I love the city. It was close to home. Parents got to come to every single game, so it was tough. I mean, nobody. I've said this, as long as I can remember, nobody ever signs their NLI planning on transferring.
Sure,
every time you sign with the school, you want it to work out, and the harsh reality of college athletics is that it doesn't, and that's kind of forgotten about. And especially in the baseball world, man, like you realize that there's only 3 or 4 seniors every year on any given team. And, there's only a couple of those that started at that school with the team. And so it's very much a dog world. It's a business, which, I mean, that so be it. I mean, winning is what talks. And so, was one of those many guys that ended up having to transfer just because it wasn't the best spot for me. But I mean, I loved my time there. The head guy there now, Sarlos, is an incredible coach, incredible guy. So
was the pitching coach at the time, ironically for you.
Ironically. Yeah, I saw him. Went to dinner the other night in Scottsdale, and I guess the Frogs were in town playing ASU or something, and actually ran into him, which was a crazy blast from the past, but it was a cool little run in. So
yeah, Coach Sarlos, no doubt, very, very, very well liked by the players. I'm not totally familiar with him. I'm familiar with it enough to know that between Coach Schlossnagel and Coach Sarlos was very, very well liked. They ran a great program. So obviously a great experience for you, but I can only imagine what the college experience was like. Baum Stadium, there's no place like it in the world. And Oklahoma State just built O'Brate Stadium, which was a $60 million facility. It's awesome, don't get me wrong. But when Oklahoma State played in a regional in 2017 with Missouri State, Arkansas, and Oral Roberts, and that place was packed, I mean, that place is special, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they'll pull, over 30,000 fans on a weekend.
Yeah.
And, there's something about going into pro ball. I feel like they retain a lot of their,
Yeah.
older guys, because you realize, like, I'm about to give this up to go play in front of, 14 people in a Arizona summer league. So if
Or
that,
worse, in some place where it's 14 degrees outside. Yeah.
yeah, it gets really cold.
Yeah.
So yeah, incredible environment. I mean, Hog fans are rabid. They don't have a pro team in Arkansas, and so
Mhm.
it's all about the Hogs, which is incredible when you're a player there. And so we had a lot of support, which was really cool, and I know we all appreciated that a lot.
So you obviously had the big fastball. The slider, I would imagine, was probably the easiest pitch maybe to incorporate in the fastest
Sure.
amount of time. I don't have a whole lot of experience in catching, but the little bit of experience I do have, I know the two pitches that I hated to catch the most. The left-handed slider, I was just waiting for my thumb to get jammed, and
Right.
then any kind of ball that flutters, whether it be
Yep.
a split finger or even just a tumbling changeup or the
Mhm.
knuckleball or whatever. I mean, you almost needed a glove that was 3 times that size. Of course, you couldn't throw the left-handed slider because you're right-handed, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
so the next obvious pitch would be the split finger. And so the way I understand it, just simply from the fact that it was so difficult for you to catch, that was the pitch that you wanted, right?
That was the exact thought process. I kind of got into pitching. A changeup is very much a feel pitch, and that is not really my style at all. I'm more of a grip it and rip it kind of guy. So, just kind of my experience in the catching world, I hated catching splitters because they came in hard and they dove hard, and
Hmm.
so I was like, man, if I could develop one of those, that could be a really a really useful tool for me down the road. And so it's definitely not an easy pitch to develop. It's taken a lot of tinkering and playing with, but towards the end of last year, I feel like I started really getting the hang of it, which was cool because it'd been kind of a work in progress for a couple of years.
Is it a big metrics pitch in the sense that you can put it up against the Rapsodo or TrackMan and kind of figure out what's going wrong with it or what's going right with it?
Yeah, I think super slow-mo cameras are what's going to be most helpful for a pitch like that, because the way it comes off the fingers I mean, that's going to totally dictate what
Sure.
happens. But yeah, the Rapsodo is cool. It's a kind of a pitch that you can play with. You can kill spin. I mean, I can get it under 1,000 RPMs if you wanted me to. It's all in the way that your fingers are, the tension on the ball, stuff
Hmm.
like that, the way that you kind of stay square or rotate. When guys get really good with it, they can decide if they want it to cut a little bit or fade.
So you can
So I
get
mean,
both movements to it. That's neat.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm kind of unintentionally doing that right now, but yeah, the goal is that one day I have that kind of control where I can, kind of use it at will. So
And let's reiterate this. You did not pitch in high school. You pitched 1 inning in college. So although you're a college age guy, what your age right now, 20, help me,
26.
26, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're
Just
26 years old right now. So throw that out the window. Some people may say, hey, 26, we're still just getting to double A. Throw that out the window. You have no wear and tear on the arm. You might as well be an 18-year-old at this point, especially considering that the type of shape that you kept your body in. You mentioned you were the leader in the weight room. So that has to be a big advantage for you. And also, too, I've got to think in this day and age, we're especially in an organization like the Dodgers where they just preach versatility. When you look up and down the minor leagues, Ryan Noda played first base. He played left field. Devin Mann played about 6 positions. Michael Bush played first base and second base. Miguel Vargas played all around the infield. Clayton Daniel played just about everywhere you want him to. So
yeah.
I would have to think, I know that this is probably a last case scenario for you, but would that bring value for you knowing that you could be a third catcher on the roster?
I haven't thought about it like that. I guess since I've gotten drafted, I've been, begging somebody
Sure.
to put a bat in my hand and
Still
let me
take
hit.
BP every now and then?
No,
Oh,
I haven't
man.
taken BP, and I took it once in the off season, and it felt weird swinging a bat again. But yeah, that's something that was, with the new CBA, they abolished the pitchers hitting. So
Yeah.
now that we have the universal DH, my chances of doing that are pretty low. But catching is the hardest position, I think, in baseball, if not in
No, no
most
doubt.
sports. And
No
so
doubt.
I don't know about jumping back in it, especially with the kind of just stuff that pitchers have
Oh,
at this level.
yeah.
I think if I got a few weeks or a month or two to work on it, I could probably get back into to the place where I could to the point where I could play, but I don't know that they're counting on me. I know I could probably go in an emergency situation,
Like
but
17th inning, and you've already pinch hit all your
yeah,
catchers, right?
sure.
Yeah.
You've got pitchers playing shortstop already. Yeah, I'll go
Who
in the
cares?
catcher. Uh-huh.
You talk to football players a lot that play offense, and then they get hit by the defense, and then they get moved over to the defense, and they get to be the guy that hits the offensive guy, and they fall in love with it. I would have to think after, and you mentioned it yourself, so I'll go ahead and say it. The offensive
Struggling
side of
with
the
that.
game was the struggle for you. It has to be fun to be on the exact opposite end of that, doesn't it? It has to be rewarding for you.
100%. And it's kind of funny because I feel like, pitching fits my personality,
Oh,
fits
yeah,
my
no doubt.
mindset way more than hitting does, because
You
if
struck me
you're
as the
hitting,
bulldog type, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so if you're hitting and you're like, man, I just got to be better, I just got to do better, try harder, all that stuff, you're going to get worse. I mean, and I struggled with that my whole life. You get more frustrated, you try harder, you swing at worse pitches. It's an extremely frustrating position to have that mindset at. But when it comes to pitching, there's a certain level of like almost like an FU attitude that, gets guys,
Not a
gives
sort
them
of.
a lot of success. And so, you've got that, 0-2 fastball, and you're, hey, I'm going to, shove it up this guy's butt right here. And you can kind of grip it and rip it a little bit more than you can when you're hitting. So
No doubt.
I do enjoy that part. But I think another thing that was super helpful when I first got into it is just freshly coming off of, being a hitter. I was like, man, it is hard to hit. Like even a fastball right down the middle, if that fastball's got any sort of movement, like it's not guaranteed. And so I know that first summer for me, it was just like that mentality was so fresh of just like, dude, just throw it hard.
Yeah.
Like just hit the strike zone. Like hitting is hard. Like let them make the mistakes, and
Play
had
the
a lot of
odds.
success that summer. So the longer that you pitch and the higher that you get and the better that the hitters get, you can't get away with that as much. But I think that having that hitter mentality on the mound was helpful for sure.
Have you got a chance to face Luke and Baker in professional baseball yet?
Man, I was going to, but I
Oh.
think he ended up pulling an oblique last year. So
Hey, when that happens, you must put that on your Instagram feed because I want to see that.
He was my roommate when he was a freshman. I was a sophomore. When we were like during the summer, they put everybody in a summer dorm because we made it to Omaha and all that stuff. So he was my roommate that year. And Lucan's a great dude. I trained with him a little bit when I got back in 19 in Fort Worth, and just an awesome dude. And I was bummed to see that he got hurt at the end of last year because I was definitely looking forward to that. But that's another aspect of pro ball that's fun, is you've played with these college guys, with and against them for a long time, and for the first time you guys are on different sides of the field. Like I got to pitch against Fletcher last year in Amarillo, who was a hog with me, and I think that was one of the first times I've gotten to pitch against somebody I know. So it was kind of like you're kind of laughing on the mound because it's like, man, I know this dude, so but yeah.
Did you know Lyle? Was he at Arkansas at the same time as you, or Lockhart?
No, he came right after I left. So unfortunately, I missed him just a little bit, but I've gotten to know him a little bit since, now we're sharing a locker room, spring training and stuff. So it's good to have another hog in there for sure.
It must be an Arkansas thing because he has the same kind of swag as you.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Very confident. I love it, man. I love that confidence, as you mentioned, just, hey, it's me and you, and you're going down here in a minute. But we talked about your stuff, 94 to 96, you've reached what, 98, 90, but what'd you say, 98 with it? 97 with it? Yeah. On your way up, of course, you're just getting started with it. 2020 obviously canceled for you too, like it did everybody else. You have the splitter, and I've seen the splitter, and I don't know if you mean to do this, but I would have swore to God watching it was a 12-6 curveball at times, and then at times I would have swore, as you mentioned, it kind of cut and looked like a slider, and then at times it just looked like a traditional tumbling and fading changeup. So you have the splitter that has lots of different types of movement to it, the slider, the big fastball. So we've talked about your stuff. Let's move on to spring training. Obviously, the agreement just came through, so the major league players are coming before too long. So talk about how your spring training's going.
Yeah, got out here in the middle of February. That was my report date was on the 14th, kind of, when the big leaguers were supposed to show up. So, we've been out here for a couple of weeks now, and, it's all that I can ask for at this point. Arm's feeling really good. I'm throwing hard. you know, it's kind of funny because you pitch against these lineups that you get to watch play all
Yeah,
year. It's
yeah.
like all year you're like, man, I'm so glad I don't have to pitch these guys. And you get and you're like, oh, I have to pitch these guys. So you got a lineup of, Bush and Vargas and
Oh, they're
Hosey
so
and
good.
Noda, and so it's just like dude after dude who's coming through, and it's just like, all right, there's no bottom of the lineup here. They're all studs. So
That we got to Tulsa what about August last year? Is that right?
yeah, I believe so.
Yeah,
Sometime.
boy, and that was right about when the Drillers, the whole team. When you talk about Michael Bush, Vargas, your check came up out. That's about when James Outman was a little bit before you coming up, but the whole team just got massively hot. Devin Mann had the 3 games in a row where he had 2 home runs in all 3 games. Michael
Yeah.
Bush had a September. I can't even believe, Justin Yurchek
Fire.
hit 365. Miguel Vargas was the Branch Rickey Player of the Year. He was the AA Central hitting champion. James Outman was absolutely unbelievable. Hunter Fiducia, I don't think people realize he's very underrated. Got
Yeah.
very hot the last couple of months of the summer. Ryan Noda led AA in home runs, led AA in walks. Man, you came up at a great time. That last month with the Drillers had to have been a lot of fun.
Dude, it was a blast. And when everyone's playing like that and you're
Yeah.
winning a bunch of games, it's a great time in the locker room. And so it was definitely lucky, and it was a blessing to get called up to Tulsa when I did. And it was cool to get to contribute for that last month and a half or 2 months, whatever I was there. So, but yeah, I mean, there are plenty of guys in that lineup that are just could probably be a lot higher with other organizations at this point, to say the least.
Yeah,
So.
Jacob Amaya, many people think is the best defensive player at shortstop in the organization. Hey, a couple more things from me, and I appreciate you taking so much time with me, Zach. I'm a big fan of yours, but you played high A for Austin Chubb. What an awesome manager! What an awesome dude.
Maybe.
Then you move up to Double A and you play for Henny. Of course, Henny is a absolute legend around here. He helped build Cali County in Ark City, Kansas, so he's very familiar with the area. People in this area are very familiar with him. So really, man, you're very fortunate the guys you got to play for last year, aren't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had just great experiences with the all the staff in the organization. We were kind of talking about it the other day, but you don't realize until you've been in pro ball for a while and get to know guys on other teams how lucky we are to, I mean, even as something as simple as having music on during spring training, just the environment is so much better. Everyone's so helpful. The coaches really are like, they care about, making guys better, and it's not an ego thing or anything like that. You can chop it up. They play hacky sack with us before the
Yeah.
games and stuff like that. So it's a really good environment. It's easy to relax and play well, for sure.
Well, Zach, you've known nothing but success in your career. You had a very successful career back at Bell. You were very successful at TCU, 2 College World Series appearances. You were in a College World Series at Arkansas as well. You're very successful as a pro. So you've known nothing but success. So I want to get your message for kids that want to become like you someday and be a professional player, that want to have the amount of success that you've had. I know you mentioned all the leadership type things. What is your message for them?
Yeah, it's kind of funny you say that. Got to go to Omaha 4 times, twice with each team. Never gotten that bad. So that's a kind of a stat that nobody knows. Yeah. I kind of reflect on my time. High school is a little bit different because, I was definitely a big contributor there. But when I got to TCU and then, eventually Arkansas, I was by far not the best guy on the team, and you do what you can to contribute when you get to play. Playing time is not always up to you. It's, sometimes that door's open and sometimes it's not. What I would actually say is like, hey, it looks like I've had this really, successful, great career. I have a lot of hardware to show for it. But I think the thing I've been the most blessed about is getting to be in the room and getting to be on the team with a bunch of like extremely elite players. And I think there's something to be said about like, it is much better to be a small fish in a big pond than to be the biggest fish in a small pond, because you're capping your ability to grow. And so when I'm around, SEC pitching every day in practice, I mean, that's going to make me better. And so, I could have looked back on my college time and said, I could have gone to one of these smaller schools that offered me, and, I would have been the guy there, no doubt. I would play 4 years, but, I don't know that I would have gotten drafted. I certainly wouldn't be a pitcher now because I would have had enough success as a catcher to probably keep catching. Right. And who knows where that would lead. Maybe I figured it out with that. Maybe I didn't, but the path that I went down, God led me down for a reason. And I think the biggest thing I'm grateful for looking back is getting to be around a bunch of awesome guys, a bunch of really, really competitive dudes, and a bunch of great coaches. And I think that's probably the advice that I would give is, don't go somewhere because your ego can't handle not being the best. You need to go somewhere that's going to make you better. So.
Wow. Wow. What a message. And as I hear that, I don't care if you're playing left field, you're going to be successful hearing your mentality towards the way that you view things and the way that, competitive people always find a reason not to have a grudge or anything like that, but to spark their fire. And you're that guy that just always, it seems like, just finds that spark to spark your fire every day. So what an attitude, what an approach, what talent. I'm just telling you, I've seen this guy pitch, and that fastball, and then just the swag he brings to the mound with him. And I wouldn't want to be an umpire that calls one of your pitches that are strikes a ball.
That's tough, because when I was catching and I disagreed, he was right there and I could say something.
Oh yeah.
If you say something on the mound, that's frowned upon, but
that's a little bit of a struggle for you right now. You just kind of want to go, hey, dude.
100%. I'm like, dude, I disagree. I strongly disagree, but I'm gonna keep it to myself. So.
And Hunter has such a low key personality too, doesn't he?
Yeah. He's man. I love throwing to all the catchers in our org, but really like throwing to Fetty. I feel like he's just got a great, it's like every catcher has a personality behind the plate, and his is like very like calming, like he's very chill. And I'm the opposite of that. I'm like,
which is probably a good mix, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was cool to get thrown to him last year in Tulsa. So,
hey Zach, I appreciate you joining me. You have a huge fan at Dodger Poke Report. I know you spent the last month and a half in Tulsa. We don't know where you're going to start 2022. It doesn't matter. You can tell by the attitude that you have. You're on your way up, and nobody's going to stop you. So thank you so much for coming on Dodger Poke Report, and best of luck.
Thanks, Casey. Appreciate it.